Our next question, I believe, is from someone in the studio audience here today. Studio audience, the library audience here today. The big TV studio here at the Annie Bush Auditorium at the Library Center. Nan writes in and says, Dear Springfield, this country is in the midst of a great economic distress. The number of unemployed citizens here in Springfield has increased. And with the continued unemployment, homelessness has followed. I've followed discussions about vouchers for the homeless veterans, but there must be more we can do to help non-veterans and the disabled without children. It has appeared to some that there are more programs for families, but not many for single adults. And I'm concerned that the ones without families are the ones who suffer in silence and feel that no one cares. I wanted to start with Becky here. You've seen a lot of this in your work at the United Way. What are you seeing on the ground right now in the efforts to help these folks?
I was the homeless coordinator also with the school system. And so I had the opportunity of direct one-on-one contact with families who have students enrolled in the school system losing their homes. We have issues. We have big issues in Springfield, whether it's families, children that's homeless, single adults. We have shelters, but certain times of the year, those shelters are filled. Whether it's a men's shelter, a woman's shelter, a family shelter, the hotel voucher program, it starts up in the wintertime because that's when we see the largest number of people needing a place to sleep. Homelessness takes on many, many, many different faces. Many different faces. And this community is trying to address all of those faces. We're good in the family concept. Yes, we have work to do, but churches are beginning to step up and open their buildings for emergency shelters, for men and for women. My little church in Bodart, we volunteer to take a night at one of the churches in order to make it possible for women to come and stay overnight. But folks, there are some, the other face of homelessness in what we see in Springfield. They don't want shelter. They are used to being out, camping out in the camps. And by virtue of, we're not going to be able to address everybody's need because sometimes they're involved in some activities that are not appropriate to come to a shelter, but they are more comfortable in their camps. And so we have issues, but we have a big thing coming up called Hope Connection in October, November. And that's bringing in the homeless men, women that are out there on their own and providing some services. So this community has really, really, really stepped up in the last 5 years of trying to address the homeless issues.
Fred, I wanted to ask, I know groups like the Kitchen are certainly very visible. Are there others in the community that these folks should be aware of, that are helping, that are trying to serve this community?
Well, I think that we've worked with two of the churches, and Becky just mentioned, to open up as shelters for one for male, one is for female and families. There have been initiatives that include the one door. We're working to open there's already operational, but a site for a affordable housing office that can help families secure a place to live. So the city is working with those nonprofits and those other agencies that are habitually into serving, and I think those are the ones that Becky is. We're trying to support and help with infrastructure where we can.
The city involvement has really opened up new doors that the private sector hasn't been able to be involved in. But we've always had Victory Mission. They have shelter for men. They have a shelter for women. They also have family that have children. Of course, the Missouri Hotel is one of the largest shelters in the state of Missouri, and sometimes that's known across the state. We have homeless people that come to at least find shelter at the Missouri Hotel. Salvation Army, they have shelter. They are in a capital campaign to expand their services and open up even more shelters, more beds because the need is so great. And along with the churches and the Council of Churches have stepped up along with the city. So we have facilities at certain times of the year. There's no room at the inn. And that's why this homeless task force has gotten started, and that's why the city and churches have gotten involved. We've got several things that we still need to address.
I want to open this up briefly to the rest of the panel. Is this a group that is visible enough in Springfield, or is it still largely invisible within the community?
It depends on where you're at.
Sure.
Once again, if you live in South Springfield and you don't make it up to Commercial Street area or the North Springfield area where poverty is a little bit more prominent, then it isn't something that's on your radar. And again, this is why we need to have more opportunities for people who live in the city to interact across those north-south dividing lines. We need to raise awareness that this is an issue and that it's something that should be on everybody's agenda to deal with and to solve and to figure out. And we need to work across those lines rather than solidifying and kind of hardening our stances to keep those lines intact. So a lot of people don't make it up to that part of the town, and when they do, they just say lock your doors and we're going to get through here as quickly as possible, and they don't really understand what's happening. And we need more communication and opportunities to have public discussions about these issues because of that.
Yeah.
And there was recently a fire in a Missouri hotel, and
Yes.
it was pretty severe. But the community just came together in a remarkable way in order to help those people relocate. We relocated them over into Cox North for a while. They opened up the doors, gave us the room. The construction industry immediately stepped up. A lot of support through nonprofits to get people back in there. In less than 2 weeks, we had a lot of people back in a matter of a month, for the most part. The facility was back up and running. So I think it was a great effort coordinated by the community providers.
I was talking with the staff at the Missouri Hotel after that, and as tragic as it was, they see it as it helped their clients so much of them realizing this community does care about us. Right. They're not just sticking us in a one-room shelter and giving us something to eat and clothes on our back. They really care about us because they stepped up and fixed up the rooms and repainted, and the facility ended up being a little bit better than what it was. And so a tragic thing like that kind of really turned around and was another educational thing that has happened. And I will compliment our media, our newspaper, TV, radio, in trying to educate the community about homelessness. A lot of us are one paycheck away from being in that same boat.
Yes, Kathleen?
The library can't provide shelter, overnight shelter, but like a lot of other groups that are kind of quiet in the community, the library is also doing things to sort of provide enrichment for the people who live in these homeless shelters or people who don't have a place to go. During our summer reading program, we had librarians who went out to the Missouri Hotel and Salvation Army and conducted story times and book discussions with adults, teaching them how to use the library, talking to them about where they could get free computer skills training at the EDGE Center. And you were talking about Open Door. I'm really proud of our library director, Regina Cooper. She has had discussions with some of the people with Open Door, and there are beginning discussions to see if the library center, as well as Midtown Carnegie Branch, might be a place where social service agencies could place one volunteer maybe 1 or 2 times a week and make that known so that individuals who do need housing or who do need social services can go to a library close to them, and then they can talk to that social service worker and obtain more resources that they need. So I think the library isn't the only one that's doing a lot of these things, but we can't provide overnight shelter, but they're doing a lot of other things to sustain them.